the first time he asked me to marry him. I was sitting on the floor of a little girl's bedroom, holding a broken stuffed rabbit together with a needle and thread. I thought he was joking. I looked up, waiting for the smile that never came. His 7-year-old daughter stood beside him with hopeful eyes, clutching my hand as though she already knew the answer. My heart pounded so loudly I couldn't hear the rain tapping against the windows anymore. "I don't need an answer today," he said quietly. "But before you say no, you deserve to know why I'm asking." I had been hired as his nanny. Nothing more. At least, that's what I believed. 6 months earlier, I had arrived at the beautiful white house on the edge of a quiet neighborhood outside Seattle with 2 suitcases, a stack of references, and exactly $83 left in my bank account. Life hadn't been kind lately. After my mother passed away from cancer, I spent nearly every dollar I had paying medical bills. My apartment lease ended a month later, and the preschool where I worked closed unexpectedly. I wasn't looking for love. I was looking for survival. The nanny position sounded too good to be true. Live-in housing. Steady pay. 1 child. The father, Ethan Brooks, owned a successful architecture firm and needed someone to care for his daughter while he managed long workdays. Simple. Or so I thought. When Ethan opened the front door that first morning, he looked nothing like the wealthy businessman I'd imagined. His expensive suit couldn't hide the exhaustion on his face. Dark circles rested beneath tired eyes. He looked like someone carrying a weight no one else could see. "You must be Claire," he said politely. "Yes. Thank you for coming." There wasn't a trace of arrogance in his voice. Only gratitude. Then a tiny voice echoed from upstairs. "I don't want another nanny." A little girl stormed down the staircase with messy brown curls and crossed arms. "I'm Lily." "I know. I won't like you." "I understand." She blinked. Most adults argued. I simply smiled. "You don't have to like me today." She frowned even harder. "What if I never like you? Then I'll still make your pancakes every Saturday." She stared at me for several seconds. "With chocolate chips? If your dad says yes." That earned the tiniest smile. Ethan noticed it too. It was the first genuine smile he'd seen from Lily in months. I learned why later. Lily's mother had died in a car accident 2 years earlier. Since then, every nanny had lasted only a few weeks. Some couldn't handle Lily's grief. Others quit because Ethan worked constantly. No one stayed. Everyone left. Lily had stopped believing adults kept promises. During my first week, she tested me constantly. She hid my phone, colored on the walls, pretended to be sick before school. Once she even locked me outside during a rainstorm. When she finally opened the door, she expected me to yell. Instead, I laughed. "You know," I said, dripping wet, "next time at least throw me an umbrella." She burst into giggles. That was the moment everything changed. Little by little, she let me into her world. We baked cookies, built blanket forts, read bedtime stories. Every Friday we visited the local animal shelter just to pet lonely dogs. She told me they looked sad because nobody chose them. "They're waiting for someone," she whispered. "So are we sometimes," I replied. She nodded as though she understood. One evening, I found Ethan asleep at the kitchen table with work papers scattered everywhere. His laptop was still open. A cold cup of coffee sat untouched beside him. He'd been working himself into exhaustion. I quietly covered him with a blanket before taking Lily upstairs. The next morning, he stopped me before breakfast. "Did you?" I smiled. "You look cold." His eyes softened. "No one's done something like that for me in a long time." It wasn't a big deal. It was. From then on, we slowly became friends. He learned I loved gardening. I learned he secretly played piano when no one was awake. He discovered I volunteered at a community food pantry every Sunday. Without telling me, he began donating groceries there every month. Not for recognition. Because he wanted to help. Kindness has a way of multiplying. Lily noticed everything. One afternoon she handed us 2 paper crowns she'd made from construction paper. "You're the king." She placed one on Ethan. "You're the queen." She put the other on me. "We're having tea." Ethan and I exchanged awkward smiles. Children often imagined families into existence. We didn't correct her. Not then. Months passed. The house slowly felt less like a workplace and more like a home. Then everything changed. One evening, I overheard Ethan arguing on the phone. "No, Victoria." Silence. I said no. Another pause. "I'm not marrying you because it would be good for business." His voice grew firm. "My daughter isn't a business strategy." He ended the call and leaned against the wall. I quietly stepped away before he noticed me. The next day he apologized. "You weren't supposed to hear that. You don't owe me an explanation." He sighed. "My company's investors think I should marry someone from another wealthy family." I stayed silent. "They believe it'll strengthen public image." "And what do you believe?" He looked toward Lily playing in the backyard. "I think love should never be a business deal." That answer stayed with me. Weeks later, disaster struck. A fire broke out at the neighborhood animal shelter during the night. Thankfully, every employee escaped safely, but much of the building was destroyed. Lily cried when she heard. "What about the dogs?" "They're safe," I assured her. "But they need help." Without hesitation, Ethan closed his laptop. "What do we need?" Together we organized a community fundraiser. Neighbors donated blankets. Children held lemonade stands. Restaurants provided meals. Construction companies offered supplies. The event became one of the biggest volunteer efforts our town had ever seen. Watching strangers help complete strangers reminded me how beautiful people could be. The shelter reopened 2 months later. Its director hugged Ethan with tears in her eyes. "You gave these animals another chance." Ethan shook his head. "No." He pointed toward Lily. "She did." On the drive home, Lily smiled proudly from the back seat. "I think Mommy would have liked Claire." The car became completely silent. Ethan gripped the steering wheel. My eyes filled with tears. "So do I," he whispered. A week later, another surprise arrived. My former landlord called. The storage unit holding everything I'd owned would be auctioned unless I paid the overdue balance within 48 hours. I quietly packed my bags. I couldn't ask Ethan for money. He'd already given me employment and a place to stay. That evening, Lily found my suitcase. "Are you leaving?" My voice cracked. "I might have to." She wrapped both arms around me. "You promised." Children remember promises adults forget. Ethan walked into the room just then. He immediately understood. After hearing everything, he disappeared for an hour. When he returned, he placed an envelope beside me. Inside was the receipt showing my storage fees had been paid. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. I'll repay every penny." He smiled. "I know you will." I did. Over the following months, I repaid him little by little. Not because he demanded it. Because dignity mattered. Then came the rainy afternoon that changed everything. Lily accidentally ripped her favorite stuffed rabbit while playing. She cried as though she'd lost her best friend. So I sat on her bedroom floor sewing every tiny stitch by hand. When I finished, she hugged the rabbit tightly. "You fixed him." "No." I smiled. "I just helped him heal." At that exact moment, Ethan appeared in the doorway. He had clearly been watching. His eyes were full of emotion. "Claire." I looked up. "I've spent years trying to build beautiful homes for other people." He paused. "But you walked into ours and somehow built a family." The room felt impossibly quiet. "I hired you because my daughter needed a nanny." His voice trembled. "But somewhere along the way, I realized we both needed you." He stepped closer. I love the way you treat people who can do nothing for you. He smiled softly. The way you make Lily laugh. The way you believe kindness matters. Then he took a deep breath. I know this wasn't part of your job description. Lily squeezed my hand. But would you consider becoming my wife instead? Tears blurred my vision. Not because of the proposal. Because for the first time in years, someone wasn't asking what I could do for them. He was asking me to stay. To belong. I looked at Lily. She nodded so enthusiastically that her curls bounced. I laughed through my tears. Yes. Before Ethan could say another word, Lily threw herself between us. So, does this mean you're really my mom now? I knelt beside her. It means I'll love you every single day. She smiled brighter than sunshine. That's even better. Our wedding wasn't extravagant. Neighbors brought homemade food. The animal shelter staff attended with pictures of the dogs we'd helped save. The community food pantry volunteers stood proudly in the front row. Love had brought everyone together. But kindness had introduced us long before romance ever arrived. Years later, people sometimes asked how Ethan and I met. They expected a glamorous story. Instead, I always smiled. I was hired to care for a little girl. Then I'd glance toward Lily, who never stopped calling me Mom. But it turns out, we were all rescuing one another. Because the greatest families aren't always the ones we're born into.